quorum. This is the meeting of Monday, October 18th of 2021 of the Norwalk WPCA. Is there a motion to go into executive session?
So moved.
So moved. Okay, by Mr. Igneri. And all in favor? Show of hands.
Aye.
Okay, Ostafine, Clark, Bovee, Igneri, Keegan, and Tyranides. Thank you. That's unanimous. Okay, you gotta get out of here to go there, right, Ralph?
Correct. Tyler's going to help us. So make sure executive session is open.
Ralph,
So I just started it at the moment. You should be able to join with the previous link that was sent. If anybody doesn't have it, you can go ahead and just let me know and I'll send it right to you.
that was the link that was sent by Zulma earlier?
Yes, sir, correct.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And then
That's
once
the
we're
one I
in
have.
executive session, I'll just make somebody the host. I'll jump back to this meeting that we're in right now. And then whenever you're finished, you can just come over to this one.
I think I need that link sent to me. This is
You
Chris.
got it. Okay.
Thank you.
Ralph, would you be
Okay, so
kind
we're
as to
gonna
send me
leave
a
this meeting at
preemptive text when
5:31.
it's getting close?
Right?
You want me to tell John?
Yeah, when you're getting close to the end of session, just shoot me a text in case I'm not sitting right here at my desk.
Sure, we'll do.
Yep.
Is it possible, I'm just asking, is it possible to open the other Zoom meeting and leave this one open?
Yep, that's the plan. They'll both be open at the same time and whoever joins, I'll appoint somebody as host over there so that they'll be able to end that one, but this one will be running the whole time. Yep.
That is great news. So I'll just mute this one and open that one.
Well, are we muting this or are we leaving this and going to that one?
You'll be leaving this one completely and joining the other one. So this will be opened. You just use the same link that you did to get here originally,
Okay.
and then you'll be all set. I believe, did Mr. Torrey have the link? I requested I sent it to him, but I don't see him in this meeting anymore. So I believe he got over there. So
All right. I'm going to leave this one.
yep, of course. Is everybody in executive session? Nobody's going to be remaining in this meeting?
What are we doing here now? Moving along?
I think you guys have to sign into the new invite for the executive session meeting. I think you have to leave this meeting and go and connect to that meeting. You should see a second email. You see it, Lo?
(6:19), we are resuming the open portion of the Norwalk WPCA October 18th meeting. By the way, this worked really well. The way the IT guys set it up, instead of getting out, just switching over, that's a big help. That was pretty seamless. Are we all here? I don't see Mr. Clark. And Mr. Terranites. We'll see Terranites.
I'm here.
Okay, there's, oh,
Okay,
thank
Mr.
you.
Flynn. Mr.
Clark.
Chair. Sorry.
Flynn, good one. Let's see.
I believe we're also waiting for Chief Carr.
Okay, Flynn did not join us when we opened the meeting. Let's see if I got his email. Unfortunately, there's like 3 Jim Flynn's that work here. Does anybody know his email address? Could try him. No.
I can see if I can find it. Jim Flinch.
I think I got it. I have jjfce@optonline.net.
Yep, I was just gonna say I have the same one.
Give it a shot. Let's see. Okay, I see Carr connecting. Okay, Bovee, Clark, Igneri, Terranites, Keegan, Flynn. Don't see Flynn. Carr is with us. (22, 23). One more minute. We'll give him one more minute.
I
Sent
just
the
resent
email.
the invitation to, well,
What's that?
I just resent the initial invitation to, well, so he just had the email, the link right in his email.
I sent the email at 22. It's 23 after. It took somebody else 2 minutes to get over to the other side. 24. Okay, it's 24 minutes after. That's 2 minutes after I sent the email to Commissioner Flynn. Shall we proceed? Is there a motion to approve the meeting minutes of September 20th, 2021 by Mr. Keegan? He raised his hand first. Are there any comments, questions, corrections? No. Okay, all in favor of approval of the meeting minutes as submitted? And Ostafine, Keegan, Terranites, Bovee, Clark, Igneri. I was not there. Thank you, Lou, for running the meeting. I am voting in favor of approval based on everybody else's approval. Okay, so that motion passes unanimously. Is there a motion to authorize the allocation of $300,000 to DPW for use for storm sanitary sewer separation project being administered by the DPW? under the September 8th, 2020 agreement between the city of Norwalk and M. Rondano, Inc. For on-call drainage improvements at various locations. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Mr. Bovee raised his hand first, Mr. Igneri, sorry.
Fine with me.
Is there any presentation from staff?
Yes, sir. WPCA has done this in the past for Wilton Avenue area when DPW had a contractor do sewer separation work. What the intent of this is to issue a PO number to Rondano to be managed by the Department of Public Works when they go ahead and have their contractor install storm drainage on various streets. The two in particular that are critical for WPCA is Plymouth Avenue and Ohio Avenue. Currently, there's either none or minimal storm drainage. The catch basins that are on both those roads, there's a total of 8, are connected to the city's sanitary sewer line. So during moderate to heavier wet weather events, our system starts to surcharge a little bit with the additional flow. So with Rondano, they're going to be running new storm sewers and disconnecting catch basins from the city sanitary sewer. And then once those 2 locations or 2 streets are complete, there may be one more street that the contractor may be looking at with DPW.
So see if I got this right. They're going to be disconnecting storm from the sanitary sewer.
That is correct.
There is no sewer going into the storm.
There is no sanitary going into the storm. There's only right now 8 catch basins. There's no storm drain system. So the 8 catch basins that collect stormwater connect to the sanitary sewer. So this project, this cost sharing will pay for the WPCA share to disconnect the 8 catch on right now on those 2 streets.
It is 6:27 and Mr. Flynn has joined us. Thanks, Mr. Flynn. So you're saying that the city is going to pay for part of this? WPCA pays for half, city pays for half?
That's correct. I don't know, it's a 50-50, it could be 60-40, or DPW's taking the majority because they're running new storm sewer to this area. But the WPCA should share the cost on Plymouth and Ohio on the streets themselves for the separation.
Where does the storm water go after they're separated?
So the city would have Rondano install new storm pipes, and these 8 catch basins would be disconnected from the sanitary sewer and connected into the new storm drain system. And then ultimately would go out to the Norwalk River or receiving water body.
Okay.
It's the motions. If
Excuse me?
somebody connected their roof leaders to our sanitary sewer, we would make them disconnect them right away and do whatever we could to make that happen as quickly as possible to get that water out of our sewer. But in this case, it's the city and we're all together. I don't know, I guess you can make an argument either way. The DPW should pay for it all, or the WPCA should be contributing whatever they need to contribute to get that stormwater out of our system. So I guess you can make 2 arguments, and those are the arguments.
The only other thing to add is that these catch basins aren't new. This goes back to when the combined system.
Okay, and did the WPCA contribute to eliminating and separating the combined system in the past? Do we have a past practice at least?
We do on Wilton Avenue, and then the side streets off of Wilton Avenue and Cross Street. The WPCA, I actually borrowed the action item from that WPCA board meeting to create the action item tonight. So there was a cost sharing.
Anybody else have any comments or questions of Ralph?
No.
Okay, well, Signori made a motion to authorize the $300,000 for them to. go ahead and
Mr.
do this.
Bovee made it.
I wrote down Ignary, sorry,
Okay.
I changed it to Bovee.
That's right, John. We can co-author that motion.
No other comments, no other questions? Everybody feels good? All in favor? Ossifine, Bovee, Clark, Ignary, Flynn, Keegan, Terranites. That's unanimous. Thank you. Takes care of the action section of our agenda. Item number 5, contract operations report, Suez operations reports, etc. Just run with it, please. At 6:31.
You're on, John.
Hey, good evening, everybody.
Evening.
As we talked about last month, we had a significant impact from the hurricane that we experienced on September 1st and 2nd. We had a total of 7.51 inches of rain over about a 24-hour period. It did lead to a lot of flash flooding and significant increases in flows at the wastewater treatment plant. At 10 o'clock on September 1st, we exceeded our 30 MGD limit and we activated outfall 002 for 25 and a half hours until 11:30 p.m. on September 2nd. The system performed very, very well during this event. We collected information from the previous events we had in July. We worked hard over the summer to make some adjustments to the system, and we implemented those changes during this event. And if it's possible, I'd like to share my screen, if that's okay. And see if you all can see that. You should see a spreadsheet on your screen. So I just wanted to give you a couple of highlights from the event. Our permit requires us to do a substantial amount of sampling and monitoring during these events. And what we do is we calculate a blended effluent, which is a weighted calculation of a combination of the regular 001 outfall and the 002 outfall. So for the event that occurred on September 1st through the 2nd, we had a total duration of 25.5 hours, as you can see here. During that time, we processed 31.03 million gallons through our conventional 001 treatment plant, which received full treatment. During that same period of time, we processed 12.51 MGD through the 002 outfall. So the combined flow through the treatment plant during that 25-hour event was 43.5 million gallons. What we also did was conduct bacteria sampling for fecal coliform and enterococci during those events out of both outfalls. And then we have a calculation that's part of our permit to get a combined effluent number. And this is where the numbers are really good. Following the blended effluent calculation, our blended fecal coliform number was 28 during the entire event, and our blended enterococci was 19 for the entire event. The 28 for fecal coliform is actually almost 100 times below the daily max limit. The daily max limit for fecal coliform is 2,400. Our blended number was 28. So that's outstanding. And the monthly average number is 88, and we were 4 times below that as well. So excellent bacteria treatment from the plant during this event. Likewise, for enterococci, we had a blended number of 19. The daily max limit in the permit is 500. So again, several orders of magnitude below the permit limit. And the monthly average was 35, and we were below that too. So I wanted to show you those numbers and also show you that the bacteria kill and the system is working very well and as designed. I'm gonna just put my report up, if you don't mind, and we can work through this too. During the event as well, we had 100% reliability of the mechanical systems. All of the pumps and all of the pump stations ran. We didn't have any failures, and all of the pumps and all the systems at the treatment plant ran during the entire event too. So 100% reliability, which we were very happy with. We did activate the Ann Street siphon again during this event for about 2 hours and 20 minutes during the very peak of the storm. And we did see SSOs at the locations that we had seen at the July events as well, when we experienced the 6.49. We had about 14 locations throughout the city that we experienced SSOs.
Hey, John, this is Ralph. We still see your spreadsheet.
I gotta switch, okay. Yeah, I'm just gonna stop sharing anyway.
Okay.
So as I mentioned, we had the SSO events, but we did all of the reporting, and we recovered quite quickly from the event, which was good. Even though we had all this activity going on, our team was able to complete just about 0.8 miles of sewer cleaning and almost 3 miles of TV inspection, along with 3 miles of critical hotspot inspections. The IPP program continued with 28 inspections during the month, and we continued to receive septage from the Stamford plant during their construction. We have no active COVID employees or anyone in quarantine, but we do remain on severity level 2. Our nitrogen numbers, our performance was actually very good, but because of the very high flows during the month, we ended up with a monthly average of 590 pounds, which is still well below our permit limits. And that slightly increased our running average to 507 pounds per day. Another thing, I wanted to share my screen with you again, if you wouldn't mind. I want to show you some good news here. We are happy to report that the mechanical installation of the scrubber is complete. If you can see that on your screen. Ralph, can you see the scrubber?
Yes, we can.
Okay. So the mechanical installation is completed. All the carbon is installed and packed in coordination with the manufacturer. The electricians are finalizing the final electrical hookups and control systems and balancing this week, and we're going to be ready to turn this unit on early next week, and we'll have odor control in our solids handling building. So very excited about that too. And lastly, I wanted to give you a quick update on the Orchard Ave lining project. This does feel like it's been going on forever, but it is a fairly complex job. There's a lot of details in the bypass pumping. In fact, the bypass pumping is probably a more complicated part of the job than the actual lining itself. And we want to be extra careful that we're sensitive to residents. We've got several large apartment complexes that we had to figure out how to bypass those during this operation. And in addition, we've identified 1 or 2 small excavations that we're going to perform ahead of time to make the bypass pumping go a little bit smoother. And those small excavations are actually scheduled and are going to be happening soon. So last piece of the puzzle is to put together the traffic control plan and then review it with the city, DPW, engineering, and other departments to make sure that it's adequate and that we're gonna have a nice smooth operation. And then we'll be ready to talk about an implementation schedule, which should be shortly after that. The only other update I'd like to give the group is, as you may recall, we have talked about the merger between Veolia and Suez, which is forthcoming. There is a lot of good progress on that. In fact, we are on schedule for a mid-December, early January transition. We're actually getting more and more information from our teams. We're very excited about this, actually. It's gonna expand our regional resources. We've got a good level of comfort that a lot of our current Suez senior managers are gonna be important key members of the new merged organization too. So fill you in more and more as we get closer, but looks like everything's on schedule for a December, January transition.
Great.
That's all I have for you tonight, unless I'm always happy to answer any questions anybody might have.
Full scrubber, is that gonna eliminate the sodium permanganate? I assume this is hooked up to the belt filter press room. When you say solids handling, it's the belt filter press room?
Yeah, we're pulling air from two locations. We've got two scrubbers. One is pulling directly off the sludge blend tanks where we mix the sludge before we dewater it. And then the second scrubber is pulling air out of the head space where the centrifuge and the belt thickeners are, correct?
So does that eliminate the chemical application?
We're going to use a balance. We're still going to continue to use the sulfide reducing chemical in the sludge blend tanks, because what we're going to try to do is find the best economic balance between adding chemical and replacing carbon. Carbon will deplete based on the amount or parts per million of sulfides that you put in it, right? So if you can drop that number down a little bit with some chemical addition, then we can extend the life of the carbon. So that would be the balance that we want to find there.
Got it. So maybe we get an odor complaint every once in a while when you open the door to take a truck out. Okay,
Correct.
but it's going to be less.
It should be
Lot
hopefully
less.
gone. Yeah, we've got
Nice.
complete containment in that building now. All the doors and windows will be shut, and we'll be bringing fresh air in and scrubbing anything that's coming out of there.
We also,
Mr. Chairman, may I ask, not a question, but I have a personal business to attend to. May I be excused from our meeting?
Thank you for joining us. The business portion is over. You helped us through it. Thank you. So it's 6:42 and Mr. Keegan's leaving. Does anybody else have any questions about of Mr. Mancini in this presentation? No? So I guess it's on to Ralph reports.
correct. Item 6A is including the board package is the fiscal year 21-22 munis report for the board. Nothing to call out on that report. Go right into discussions of WPCA projects. Item B1, the sanitary sewer system rehab various locations. Last month, we did report that the lining on Smith Street went well. It was completed towards the end of August, just in time for the second storm event. Right now, Green Mountain is doing, actually, they're waiting for their crew. They got crews, their main crew is up and down the Connecticut coast right now, hitting the various municipalities. But we got AJ Pennant doing some point repair work. Green Mountain's in doing CCTV of sections of pipe that are going to be lined very soon. We're hoping to finish out the contract by the end of this calendar year. Item 2, collection, Dreamy Hollow area. Woodard and Curran is doing a major design and installing major drainage in the Dreamy Hollow area for DPW. This is going to go out to bid shortly. There's also a sanitary sewer component because where the drainage is going, they have to relocate the sanitary sewer. So we've been, the chief and I have been working with Woodard and Curran on design of the sanitary sewer. We've been working on an entire Dreamy Hollow capacity analysis to ensure that any replacement of the sanitary sewer is designed with sufficient pitch and capacity for the area needs. And that's been ongoing. And I just bring it to the board's attention that work is happening behind the scenes. The item B3, Belden and Burnell Boulevard Gravity Sewer. A-Vidi Construction from Stanford is in town. They started last week. What we're doing is we're redirecting the flow from the Yankee Doodle garage and the adjoining building, which is a pizza place, a Subway, the transit district, lunchroom. They used to go underneath the Avalon. So we're running new sewer out and redirecting that flow away from underneath the buildings. So that way it's a hotspot area. It's just because it's old, the way it's configured, paper towels or grease becomes a problem. This new line that's being installed will eliminate that problem. The work should be done within 30 days is the contract length. It's just going slow right now. There's a lot of utilities, but once they get closer to Yankee Doodle Garage, things will move a little bit quicker. The next item is pump stations. The Kovacs contract that's rehabbing the 5 Mile, Old Trolleyway, Karen Drive, and Woodward Avenue pump stations has been ongoing. They have 360 days to complete all the work. Right now, they're at Old Trolleyway, materials coming in due to COVID. Yeah, there's all kinds of delays, deliveries come and go. You just basically they're looking at all 4 pump stations as material comes in. They do that work. They're bouncing around versus trying to be a little bit more centralized at one station, get one station done. They're doing the work as material comes in. But we have a monthly meeting with the team. Wright Pierce is the consulting design engineer, along with the inspector on site, and things so far are going pretty well. The last item, 5B, wastewater treatment plant, aeration tanks, electrical infrastructure improvements. I included an invitation for construction. That project is going out to bid within the next couple of weeks. And what that does, it's on the aeration tanks right now, we have electrical conduit that's below the grading that you walk on. And it gets filled, well, where it is, it fills up with water, always got to pump it out. Electric and water obviously don't mix. What we're doing is we're moving it all electrical, both low and high voltage above the walking path. So we're going to have a truss system. Everything's going to be supported. We're going to have a layer of higher voltage and then low voltage for all the pieces of equipment on each aeration tank. And then next year, once this work is completed, Suez is going to be then installing additional BNR equipment, analysis equipment to help optimize the treatment plant process. So this is what we're calling electrical phase 1. The BNR then goes in, and then following that, we'll actually do additional electrical work in the solids handling building, along with looking at replacing blowers. So that's a little bit looking at the future, the wastewater treatment plant. Anybody got any questions on any of the projects? All right, item C, sewer use bills, appeals, adjustments to date. Item 1, we have a discussion on the Maritime Aquarium sewer use charge. And if the chief is here, I know he was going to say a couple things. Chief?
Sorry, Ralph. No, I'm sorry. Can you repeat that? My phone is going in and out. I apologize. I'm running low on battery.
Sure. I was saying you were going to kick us off about the discussion on the Maritime Aquarium sewer use charge.
Yeah, so at the conclusion of the last, I believe it was the executive session at the last WPC meeting, Mr. Chairman and members of the commission, board, we did determine that the best course of action would be for Vero Law to provide a legal opinion on what is considered a fee versus a tax, and the disparity or the difference between the two, and also how to handle this situation, which is a bit unique. And I know Attorney Tadaro will go over that in detail, but the Maritime Aquarium situation is a bit unique because the way we looked at this matter was that the sewer use fees, it's a better coined term to refer to them as charges, and Matt Tadaro will explain a little bit in more detail why charges is more appropriate than a fee or a tax. Again, this is a situation where a user is asking for a hardship, requesting a hardship for their sewer charge for, I believe, Ralph, correct me if I'm wrong, it's the June 2020 bill, July 2020 bill, and the January 2021 bill, right? And the total amount is approximately $45,000.
That is correct.
Okay. And has there been previous requests from the Maritime Aquarium in the past to reduce their sewer charges?
Not to my recollection.
Okay, so I'm just trying to provide the board with some additional context and background. So the staff did deliberate with federal law, and I think that although it's a hardship is a hardship, and this is why we have boards and commissions to be the checks and balances and to look at all facets and different sides of every situation and decide what's fair and what's not and what fits into the ordinances that we have today. Again, it seems to be more of in line with the charge and the groundwork, at least for the legalities of them seeking the reimbursement, is solely at the purview of the board. I don't know, Matt, if you want to start and kick off maybe your memorandum or your findings, just to kind of walk the board through what you looked at and what your firm looked at, and what ultimately I wouldn't say is a recommendation, but more completes the picture so the board can make the best educated, informed decision on how to proceed forward.
Sure, Anthony, happy to take the ball there. And thanks for that introduction. Sure. As Anthony mentioned, and as members of the board are aware, the aquarium approached the city and the WPCA regarding an abatement of its charges for 2020 and 2021. And we were charged with trying to determine what was the best way to proceed with the request. One of the questions was whether the WPCA had the authority, or the DPW had the authority, to abate any portion of this, potentially wondering whether it was a tax, and whether the authority existed to abate that particular tax. We went back and took a look at the state statutes that authorize cities like Norwalk to set up WPCAs, and then in doing so, what powers are granted to those WPCAs. One of those powers, as you all know, is the authority to impose fees on users of the system, and those fees are discussed within that state statute as charges. So it likely, while there's still some gray area, I think in the case law around the terms tax and fees, it's more accurate from the language of the statute, both at the state level as well as your local code, to use the term charge, as both Anthony and Ralph are mentioning. So really what we're talking about here is the abatement of a usage charge and a request coming from an entity within the city. We also took a look at your local code, your city code, and as some of you may know, there is a process within that code for requesting or appealing a charge that has been imposed on a particular resident or entity within the municipality for a number of different reasons. So there's a process set forth in the code for an entity that's potentially aggrieved by a charge. The WPCA has that process laid out on its website. Ralph and his team have put together a packet of information, some forms that have been standardized, where someone seeking an appeal of a charge can fill out the forms and file them with the WPCA. And appeals of those charges can either be heard by the director of the Department of Public Works or the WPCA board, or in some instances, potentially both. Any appellant who feels like they're continuing to be aggrieved by a final decision by the WPCA board, then has the authority to appeal that decision to Superior Court. So after going back through, reviewing the process, thinking about the request that's being made of the city and the WPCA, while it's not a perfect fit, we think the best fit probably is to run the aquarium's request through your appeal process. Ask the aquarium. I don't know if anyone from the aquarium is on the call tonight, but reach out to the aquarium, or when they do reach back out, recommend that they complete the sewer use appeal form that's located on the WPCA's website. Following receipt of that, the WPCA can proceed to process the appeal just as they process any other appeal. And for this instance, public notice will be provided, and depending upon the timing, it could be heard as early as next month, assuming that the notice goes out. Again, while the aquarium's request is somewhat unique, you've got a standardized process, which in this instance should be utilized. At that public hearing, the aquarium will have an opportunity to present its request. Members of the public will also be able to weigh in on the appeal. And then the board will have the opportunity to deliberate and weigh the merits of the appeal in a WPCA meeting like this and render a decision at some point. And that's the process that we reviewed. That's the research that we undertook. And that's the way that we think it's best to proceed at this point.
And if I may ask, and the hardship is COVID and the impact on attendance? Is that it?
That's right, John. And I think the member of the aquarium who's spoken about this before indicated that I don't know when the aquarium was closed, but I think his position was our costs continue to accrue last year, despite the fact that we could not receive any of the fees that they would receive normally when they have visitors attend the aquarium.
There are many federal and state grants for organizations such as the Maritime Center. Have they gotten any of those grants, or?
I don't know the answer to that, John, but that's certainly a good question that could be asked of a representative from the aquarium if they do decide to request an appeal of those charges.
Yeah. Also, I guess we should look at the city has just announced that we've received, again, federal and state grants to help with sewage problems and stormwater flows and so forth. I wonder whether they would qualify for any of that as well. So just a few thoughts. So
if that's a question, John, I don't know the answer to that.
Just
Sure.
a comment.
Sure.
So.
Anybody else? So maybe this shows up in November? That's what you're saying?
It's certainly possible, Mr. Chairman. I think it will depend on how quickly the aquarium proceeds if they decide to proceed, because there are some time requirements around when public notice is made, but it certainly could be on the November agenda.
If there's anybody willing to, do we know how much they're looking for? It must be substantial if they're coming to the board.
I believe Ralph mentioned this before, but I think the number is around 45,000. Ralph, you can correct me if I'm
So
wrong there.
45,000, we're talking about, I thought that was their bill. You're talking about they're asking for $45,000 off of their bill?
From what I've heard, it could be close to the full amount.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, just to clarify, the June bill and the June 2020 and the January 2021 sewer charges amounted, the total cumulative between the 2 6-month periods was approximately $45,000. They're asking for a rebate, ideally of the entire amount.
They used the same amount of sewage when they were closed as when they were open?
They're not allowed to discharge those tanks into the river, are they?
No, the backwash and everything does flow to the sanitary sewer.
Right. You have tanks there that cannot be operationally stopped or shut down unless it's obviously for maintenance or replacement. But like the seal tanks, for example, there's tanks in there that have to continually discharge to the sanitary sewer, or like Ralph said, during maintenance operations when you have your backwashing. So that's a good question, but the way it was explained to us was that the revenues were severely impacted. Obviously, not as many patrons were visiting the Maritime Aquarium, but yet they still had to maintain, I guess, a baseline of operational expenses that they couldn't avoid without relocating the assets they have inside of the aquarium. So really, I'm sure they'd be happy with any rebate, but the initial request, as explained to staff and to the board at the last meeting, was for the entire amount.
Well, it is unique, but I haven't heard any requests from anybody else asking for a rebate. I'm sure there's a lot of restaurants that have suffered greatly through this time. It's probably true they didn't flush the toilets as often because they didn't have the business and they didn't have the kitchen running. So the Maritime Center is unique, but doesn't this set a precedent?
Well, if I may ask a question, the Maritime Aquarium during this period put in a new tank for the seals, if I'm correct. So they would have had to drain a lot of water and fill up with a lot of water. I don't know how that impacted their bill. I guess if we went back to earlier years for the same time frame, we could get a comparison. But you know, I'd like to look at that if possible.
That we can do. We do have the water data for 2020, 2019, 2018 that we could provide to the board. But right now, we'll circle back to the Maritime Aquarium and ask them if they want to submit the formal appeal on the WPCA paperwork. And that's the starting point.
Okay.
And along with that is the justification, what they're requesting, why are they asking of staff and ultimately the WPCA board.
Right. And I think it'd be important too at the next meeting that the chief operating officer, who I'm sure will make himself available, Mr. Truittson, he can give a presentation and answer a lot of these questions that are being asked tonight about the internal operations for the TMA.
Part of the reason why we thought the appeal process was uniquely well suited for this is that it creates transparency around the questions that you all have, and then the aquarium's ability to present their case. So that's built into your appeal process right now, which makes sense to be utilized in this process.
Okay. So this is up for discussion next month.
So we're going to have the information that Mr. Igneri asked for in advance. The water records last year compared to this year.
I could actually send them tomorrow or the next day to the whole board if that's acceptable.
That's okay. Just to explain my question, they were granted a lot of money from the state to rebuild that seal tank. And I would imagine there's a lot of water in that seal tank. And if they can't go out into the river, it's going through the sewer system. And I wonder whether part of their reimbursement for that new tank included these additional sewer charges. So that's why I'm asking.
Mr. Terranites?
Mr. Chair, can I also ask that we ask the Maritime Center if they did apply for any of the relief funds, any of the state or federal funds that were allocated? They don't necessarily have to disclose numbers, but at least we could find out if they are staying on top of it. Do they have a grant writing individual that's also looking into additional funds?
Can you do that, Ralph?
We can.
Mr. Gould, thanks.
Excuse me, everybody. I have to apologize, but I have to jump off because I have another meeting that's already started.
In the caucus?
No, actually, debates.
Oh,
All right, everyone. Have a good
Good luck.
night.
Thank you, Mr. Terranites. Thanks for joining us.
You too.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Okay, 7:05, Mr. Terranites leaves. Are there any other questions of staff or Attorney Tadaro? No? So we'll deal with it next month, I guess. I would just add that every time we forgive a charge, we risk setting a precedent And every time we forgive a charge, we still have to pay our bills, so we're necessarily charging all of us and everybody else in the city. Those are my thoughts. Preliminarily, I'll keep an open mind until we see all the facts.
I agree.
Anybody else? Nothing? We still have to do the appeal stat, or is that number 2?
Appeal status is $125,000 and 125,049 total. And there is no information copies.
Okay. And that's one quick question. I'm not real good at reading munis sheets. So septic, are we killing it? Are we making money with septic fees?
It's been all over the place because haulers have reduced coming to Norwalk, but because of Stanford, some of the septage is up.
Yeah. That's what I mean. If Stanford's coming to us, are we getting everybody? Are we making money now?
I don't have the exact figures in front of me, but you know, we are collecting more revenue. But I know the revenue fluctuates quite a bit. And that's, to be honest, that's all I have at the moment.
Well, I was looking at those 3 numbers. And I don't know what they mean. Is there's a septic licenses, septic fees. And I don't know if it means that we're up, we're down.
So 175,000 is the anticipated revenue that we will collect in fiscal year 21-22. And so far we've collected just over 19,000.
Okay.
But Munis is about a month or month and a half behind because
Oh, okay. So we're more than a quarter through the year, and we've only collected 10% of our anticipated fees, but there's a lag in the report.
there's a lag. Correct.
Okay, thanks. Does anybody else have anything either on here or not on here? Anybody else have anything else to say, ask, concerns, questions? No?
No.
Mr. Flynn, is there a motion to adjourn?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Okay, everybody in favor? Also find Bovee, Clark, Igneri,
So,
and Flynn. We're all, that's unanimous. The meeting is adjourned at 7:08 PM.
thank you all.
So thank you guys for showing up. Thanks again to Lou for running the meeting. I'm sorry I had to miss last month's meeting. And I will see you guys on November 15th.
Great. Good night.
Thanks. Take care.
Thank you, everyone.
Good night.
Not all.